Getting how to weigh 17 back. Skinny Hardaway 7T back with another EP. Y'all do your boy a favor. Y'all smash that like button for your boy when you roll on in. Whether you're here for a good time or a long time, I do greatly appreciate you sliding through. If this your first time, do your boy solid. Don't make it your last time. Hit that subscription button as well. We talk this good boxing and sports every single day, not just today. So we all know what the hot news going on in boxing is right now, right? At least one of the hot topics for sure, right? We had a big time fight. We had a big time fight. You know what I mean? Shakur Stevenson and Frank Martin. It was called by the WBC, right? So we thinking in this great year of boxing in 2023, we about to get another great fight added. You know what I mean? To the long line of great successful fights that we had this year. So Shakur versus Frank Martin. News broke that we got the fight. Everybody excited. News broke that both sides agreed to all the terms. Right, got everybody even more excited. We got a date for the fight. Right, got everybody 10 times more excited. Right, and then it feels like out of nowhere we got the cancellation of the fight. Frank Martin and his side decided to go a different way. Right now, from that, you know how it is. From that, everybody, even Shakur Stevens himself, right, hopped on the Frank Martin is ducking train, right? Frank Martin is ducking Shakur Stevens. So now, when this news first broke to me, I'm not gonna lie. Me personally, myself, I said, this is a terrible, terrible look for Frank. You know what I mean? And I started to, make a video on it when it originally broke, when the news hit the fan. But I said, you know what? I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna check out, with my sources. I'm gonna check out with my guys. I'm gonna wait and see how it all play out. So what I did was exactly that. I got up, with my people. I hit my people up. They hit me up, right? I asked what I had to ask, and I feel like because 9 times out of 10, right, these people that I'm getting these, this information from, all right, you know what I mean. I don't put nothing out unless I'm 100% sure that this information is true, or the person that's telling it to me, you know what I mean, is a reliable source. And I've been messing with a lot of these people for some years now. At this point, right now, they always right on the money, right? So I gave this a little time. I connected my dots, right? I crossed my T's and dotted my I's, and I feel like, you know what I mean, I'm now educated on this situation enough to give y'all, you know what I mean, my thoughts. I'm gonna tell y'all, exactly what was told to me, right, in regarding this situation, and we go do this thing the right way. You know what I mean? But shout out my guy Tay D. Appreciate you sliding through this, John Tay D. Glad you can make it, my G. My guy Big Tex. And y'all know I'm a little late, y'all, but they say better is late than never. Appreciate you sliding through. My guy Grill. What's good, Grill? Appreciate y'all sliding through. Y'all hit that thumbs up for your boy. My boy A17, Mr. Talk Too Much. What's good, A17? But let me go get to it now that I done hollered out everybody in the building. So this is what I got, y'all. This is the word that I got. Now, originally, like I stated, man, it did look really bad. You know what I mean? For Frank Martin, it did look really bad. They dropped the reports that both sides agreed to the fight. We thought we was getting this fight, and then like shortly after the reports dropped, right, that both sides agreed, we got confirmation from Frank Martin and his side that the fight won't be taking place. Now, what everybody ran with, right? What the feel around this was, right, is that Frank Martin ducked Shakur Stevenson. Well, before I jumped out on that ledge and I said something like that, I wanted to be sure, and that's exactly what I did. So, from my understanding is that Frank Martin and their side, they never agreed to fighting Shakur Stevenson for the terms that Shakur Stevenson and his team put out, right? they are all on board for fighting Shakur Stevenson, but just not at the terms given for the contract of the fight. Now the news that Shakur Stevenson and his side agreed to the fight, that was false news. They both were negotiating. They both were negotiating for the fight. They both were negotiating for the fight, right? But Shakur wanted to give Frank Martin basically Shakur Stevenson was good. BC basically Shakur Stevenson wanted a lot more money than Frank Martin was comfortable with. And now we all understand that Frank Martin is the B side. Frank Martin understands that he is the B side too, right? But what I'm being told is that Shakur Stevenson was only offering Frank Martin $1 million flat fee. You know what I mean, for this fight. He get $1 million and that's it, and the rest goes to Shakur Stevenson and his side. Now, I could have my own opinion. You could have your own opinion, right? But in this situation, what Frank Martin think is fair is indeed what he think is fair, right? And I find it's a kind of similar situation, right? Because a lot of people were saying that give Shakur what he deserved when it came to Devin Haney. Devin Haney offered Shakur Stevenson 25%, right? Which was more than $1 million, right? He'd offered him 25% for an undisputed title fight. Shakur said, no, I don't want that fight. I know my worth, right? Basically, what Frank Martin and his team was saying in this situation is, no, I don't want that fight at only $1 million. I know my worth. You know what I mean? So if we feel like that Shakur Stevenson never dug Devin Haney, which a lot of people, some people do and some people don't, right? I'm not one of those people who feel like either of those guys dug either of those guys. I'm one of those people who feel like that fight probably wasn't going to happen right then and there anyway. So why would we even waste our time with that, right? But if I'm fair enough to say, now Shakur Stevenson didn't dug Devin Haney, but I don't like how he said he wanted that fight with with all intents and purposes, and then he got it, and then he said, okay, it's about the money, right? But I don't think that he ducked Devin Haney. I don't think he's afraid to fight Devin Haney. So if I could logically say, well, Shakur Stevenson didn't duck Devin Haney, like my guy 817 also said in the chat before I even came on this live stream. Shout out my guy 817. If I'm not going to say Shakur Stevenson ducked Devin Haney, I'm not going to say Frank ducked Shakur Stevenson, because basically what Frank Martin is saying is the same thing that Shakur Stevenson was saying in the Devin Haney situation. Like, hey, bro, I want some more money. I'm not taking what you give me. The fight didn't happen. It's boxing and it's the business. The boxers are willing to fight each other. Frank Martin, Devin Haney, and Shakur Stevenson. The business side of it is another thing. What one guy thinks he deserves, what this guy thinks he deserves, what that guy thinks he deserves. You know what I mean? What I'm saying is this happens a lot in boxing where the business gets in the way and it puts a halt to these fights. It makes these fights very, very difficult, you know what I mean, to make. So for people just to jump out the gate, right? And I seen people jump out the gate and say Frank Martin duck, and then come back later on and say Frank Martin, didn't like his terms. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people, right? Not everybody, but a lot of people, they just want to push stories out for the clicks and the views and stuff like that. When I drop something, bro, you better believe it's fact checked, 100% thorough. I haven't even been dropping a whole lot of boxing news, you know what I mean, as of late, like I used to, talking a whole lot of boxing, right? But I had to come and talk about this because it's a hot topic in boxing. I want to make sure that I gave y'all they're real and not that spill. You know what I mean? Shout out my guy MP. I see you in the building. MP, let me give my guy MP some love. Make sure I holler at everybody when they come through the building. You know what I mean? But what happened here is just a situation where Frank Martin, and then again, that news, the ESPN drop. Understand, y'all, and this has nothing to do with Frank Martin, but Frank Martin is the ESPN fighter, top ranked fighter, right? And ESPN does have his own platform, a huge platform, right? So if they want to make fighters that fight for them look a certain way, they're going to do that. Media teams do that everywhere, right? PBC want Frank Martin to look a certain way. ESPN top rank wants Shakur Stevenson look a certain way. The people that handle the business, right, want their fights to look a certain way. So and I'm not saying that neither of these sides are true, but just hear me out, right? So if I am Shakur Stevenson and I do want a certain amount of money, let's say it's $6 million in this fight, I want $5 million. I'm gonna give Frank Martin $1 million, right? So if I want my $5 million, I'm gonna give him $1 million, and he don't want to take it. Perception could be that, oh well, Shakur Stevenson Shakur Stevenson overpriced himself versus Frank Martin. He wasn't being fair to Frank Martin, right? So if I'm ESPN and Top Rank and my fighter come out, why? No, and Frank Martin. What Frank Martin, what the people close to Frank Martin is telling me is that they never agreed to the terms of their contract, but ESPN put out that all the terms was agreed to, but they never agreed to all the terms in their contract. They didn't like the money that they was getting, which was $1 million. I don't know how much the total pot was, but I do know what they was offering Frank Martin, and what they was offering Frank Martin was $1 million. They didn't like that $1 million. Everything else was fine. They didn't like the $1 million, right? So when ESPN put their news out that they agreed that both sides agreed to it, that was completely false. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that Shakur had anything to do with it, but Shakur Media's team, his PR team, is going to, do what's in the best interest of Shakur, just like Frank's is going to do what's in the best interest of Frank's, right? But Frank and his side never agreed to the terms. ESPN put that out, and I have seen ESPN say that a fighter has agreed to terms before, and the fight didn't happen, right? So that's not outside of the MO of ESPN. Y'all remember Terrence Crawford, quote unquote, agreed to all terms with Errol Spence, and then he ended up fighting David Avenesian. You know what I mean? So I've seen them say terms been agreed to and fights not happened before. So this is not outside of the realm of what happens, over there with ESPN and their media teams and their fighters and their fights. You know what I mean? But that news is really what's the problem right now, right? What everybody's having a problem dealing with. Yo, I got 14 people in the building. I got 10 likes. I need all 14 of y'all to hit that thumbs up, because I know more than 14 of y'all been through here, because there's 14 of y'all in here now, and I only got 10 likes. So I need y'all to do me a favor. You either go get the fuck out, or you go get your boy right and hit that thumbs up. And I saw one of y'all get the fuck out, so I appreciate y'all hating getting the fuck out of here. But I digress. You know what I mean? But we got this has happened more than once, you know what I mean, on the ESPN side of things. You know what I mean? Mr. 817 said, like I said, if Shakur didn't duck there, Frank ain't duck. Okay, I saw that. I read that one. He said, notice all of the fight news was coming from who? ESPN and Top Rank. Yeah, facts, buddy. You know what I'm saying? So, of course, right? And I'm not even saying that no side is wrong with her. What I'm saying is that the media, ESPN media, is going to, make put out news to help their fighter look a certain way. And Showtime and PBC, them, they go do the same thing as well. You know what I mean? Chico Francisco said Shakur should accept the 25 that Haney offered him to fight. That's a once in a lifetime opportunity, man. That's for Undisputed. And now that was gone. Shakur's situation is very difficult now. You know what I mean? Right? It's like the big fights are eluding Shakur for whatever reason, right? For whatever reason, whether it's, he wants more money, or the guy that he fights wants more money, right? It's like it's getting real tough for Shakur Stevenson to make these big time fights happen. Chico Francisco, can you do your boy a favor, Chico? I don't know if this is your first time, Brody, but if you could not make it your last time out, could you hit that subscription button? I'm on the road to 4,000. Greatly appreciate you hit that subscription button, man. We talk this good boxing every day, not just today. But let me run it back for y'all, for the people that are just coming in the building. Shakur Stevenson and Frank Martin, the fight fell through. Now initially everybody that jumped out there and they hopped on that Frank Martin Duck Shakur thing. I'm not gonna lie. Originally, when this news first broke, it did look like that, right? But it took me a few days. It took me a few days to gather the information that I need to gather, and now you know what I mean. I got the whole story, and I'm not saying that one side lied and the other side didn't, but I do got the whole story here. And basically, what happened here is Shakur feels like he deserves one thing. Frank Martin feels like he deserves one thing, and they can't find a common ground on who deserves what. The news that got everybody up in a frenzy, right, in the funk, is that the fact that ESPN dropped that both sides agreed in terms. So that made us feel like we had a fight. So when Frank Martin's side come out and say, "Nah, I didn't agree to terms. I'm going a different route." Now it looks like, oh, Frank Martin pulled out of the fight. He ducked Shakur Stevenson, and that has nothing to do with Shakur Stevenson, right? But I did my due diligence. I did my homework. I hit up my guys, and I found out that Frank Martin, his side, never agreed to the term. So that was ESPN saying that they agreed into terms, right? But Frank Martin, his side, never agreed to the terms and fully. It was always a problem with the purse, and the purse was what I'm being told. Right, they was offering Frank Martin $1 million flat fee, and what I'm not really sure what Shakur Stevenson was getting, right? But Frank Martin wanted more than $1 million to fight Shakur Stevenson. And it's kind of similar to the situation with Devin Haney and Shakur Stevenson, right? Devin Haney offered Shakur Stevenson the 25%. Shakur Stevenson said, I know my worth, right? And we just let it. I didn't feel like nobody ducked anybody right then and there, right? So if they offer Frank Martin $1 million, right, for one belt, and Frank Martin say, man, I know my worth. I don't feel like that Frank Martin ducked Shakur because if a fighter, right? Because if we give it, and I'm not even gonna say we giving him a pass because a fighter is boxing and it's business. If he don't feel like it's worth it, then I can't make him do it. You know what I mean? But I ain't even gonna say that he ducked him. What I say is that he wanted more bread. Well, I feel like in situations like these, you call fighters bluff. Just like I told Shakur Stevenson, if Devin Haney offer you 25%, the way that you campaign for that fight, you call his bluff. You know what I mean? Type deal. The way that you campaign for it, you gotta call his bluff in that instance, right? You gotta call his bluff in that instance. You know what I mean? You got what you time Brody out for? BC must be a troll. You know what I mean? I feel like you had to call Devin Haney bluff in that instance if you Shakur Stevenson. Remember, we was told Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury agreed to terms. Yeah, right. You know what I mean? So, you know, and I'm gonna say in this situation, in this particular situation, no smoke TV was good. He said, how we gonna argue the business if we're not a part of it? I stay in spectators lane and watch the fight once it's happened. He said the business of boxing is how we get the fights. Yep, can't have one without the Shadow Mike got no smoke TV, no smoke. Appreciate you sliding through. We in here having this boxing conversation, man. I wanted to make sure that I came here and I hit y'all, with it real. We all know what's floating around in the boxing world right now. We had the Shakur Stevenson, Frank Martin fight for the WBC, had everybody excited. You know what I mean? And then it seemed like out of nowhere, it just fell flat on his face and fell through. And the backlash coming from this now, the backlash coming from this was, Frank Martin ducked Shakur Stevenson. And I'm not gonna lie. Initially, when the news first broke, I felt the same way, which is why I didn't jump out. Which is why I didn't jump out and say, "Man, Frank Martin ducked Shakur," because it just didn't sound right to me. Now, believe me, if it got down to it, and it ended up being that Frank Martin indeed did duck Shakur Stevenson, I was going to let Frank Martin have it. You know what I mean? But I wanted to make sure I got all my info correct. And what I'm being told by people close to the situation is that Frank Martin and his team, they never agreed to the terms, right? They never agreed. They agreed to most terms. They didn't agree to the purse payout. Shakur Stevenson, what I'm being told from Martin's side is, right, people close to the situation, is that Shakur Stevenson offered them $1 million flat fee for the fight versus Shakur. And Frank Martin and his side wants more than $1 million. You know what I mean? So if Shakur Stevenson and his side are going to be offering $1 million, then Frank Martin and his team, they won't be going through with the fight. Now, the part that got everybody in the frenzy is that news broke that the fight was agreed upon. It was never agreed upon because it was always a problem with the money. I'm not really, I wasn't told how much money Shakur Stevenson is getting, right? But I think it's fair, right? I think it's fair that Frank Martin, gets more than $1 million for a vacant belt. It's not like Shakur Stevenson is, what I mean, a champion. This is a vacant belt. You know what I mean? They got about the same amount of fights, right? And some people will want to be like, Shakur Stevenson is A side in this situation, right? He's more of he's fought on TV a multitude of times, Olympic background. He is the A side in this, right? But on the grand scheme of boxing and selling and boxing and the business of boxing, Shakur Stevenson is not one of the top players. You know what I mean? So I would imagine, right? I would imagine that in this fight, it's anywhere from like $4 to $5 to $6 million, right? Anywhere from $4 to $6 million involved in this fight, right? If we want to go low end, right? If we want to go low end, we could say, three million, right? If we'll go low end, we'll say it's at least 3 million involved in this fight, right? If it Shakur getting two and Frank getting one, I think this is a 50-50 fight. A lot of people would tell me, right, and a lot of people would tell me, and you can make an argument, right? I don't necessarily agree with it, but you can make an argument. A lot of people would tell me that Devin Haney and Shakur is 50-50. I don't agree with it, but I can listen to your argument. I could tell you that Frank Martin versus Shakur Stevenson is 50-50 on the grand scheme of things. When you're talking about star power and whatnot, neither of these guys are the highest earning in boxing, right? Shakur Stevenson has, you know, New York, or he has New Jersey, right? And he has Texas behind him. Frank Martin has Michigan, right? And he has Texas behind him, right? What I'm saying is, in star power, they're not as far apart as, a lot of people will want you to believe, right? As a lot of people think, at least in my opinion, right? So I think if it's, let's just say low end, if it's 4 million in this fight, I believe you should give, Frank at least 1.5, at least be able to clear those taxes to get a real million. Because if you give him a million straight up, that's not a million that he's taking home. You know what I mean? If you give him a million straight up, that's not a million that he's taking home. $1 million for a championship fight, man, that's tough. Only $1 million, and we just getting out of the situation, right? And we just getting out of a situation, right, where people were saying that Devin Haney, was mistreating Shakur by offering him such a low deal. And then Shakur and his side go come right back. Shakur and his side go come right back and offer Frank Martin only $1 million for a title fight. You know what I mean? Both their fan bases are in Texas. You know what I mean? Shakur maybe is a little more popular, right? But not, far more popular than Frank Martin. He's indeed the A side. I'm gonna say it again. He's indeed the A side. But for you to say that Devin Haney offered you a low ball offer, then you come and you offer Frank a low ball offer, if all that is said to be true, right? And at least with Devin in your situation, right? With you and Devin's situation, right? Devin got all four belts, you got none, right? So a lot of people don't feel like there's a low ball, and there's a lot of people who do feel like that, right? In this situation, neither of y'all have any belts. You know what I mean? Y'all have about the same amount of fights. Y'all resume is about what and what. You got Oscar Valdez on your resume. He got Michelle Rivera. When you beat Oscar Valdez, he was a champion, true enough. But Michelle Rivera was one of the top, prospects in boxing for a long time. And I'm not all the way sold that Valdez would be a Rivera, right? So I feel like those wins are about what and what. We'll slightly edge it to Rivera, right? I mean, we'll slightly edge it to Valdez. But you see how, that's exactly what I'm saying. Shakur's accomplishments aren't that far in front of Frank's, where he should get 75% of the purse versus Frank Martin. You know what I mean? They only offer Frank Martin $1 million flat fee. You know what I mean? And I'm not counting anybody's pockets, but if you're Shakur Stevenson, for you to say somebody treated you unfairly, and then for you to come and offer somebody $1 million flat fee, I mean, that's kind of backwards, man. You know what I mean? Ricky, what's good, Rick? Shout out my guy, Rick. Rick, rinse me up, Ricky. Shout out my guy, Rick. My guy, No Smoke. Where Rick? I see Rick fell through. Where Rick is? Shout out my guy, Rick. Appreciate you sliding through this thing. Ken, TWT is in the building. Y'all do your boy solid. Y'all hit that thumbs up for your boy, whether you just passing through or you making it do what it do. I want to have this conversation, you know what I mean, with y'all before everybody know what's been going on, right? What's being said. I wanted to wait till I gather all the information, right before I hopped out there. Because it did look bad for Frank. I'm not gonna lie. I'm one of the people who said this is not a good look for Frank Martin, but it didn't make much sense to me. It didn't make a whole lot of sense to me because Frank Martin don't rub me as a dude who duck fights. So I said I want to wait until I'm able to get my hands on more information and more come out. And that's exactly what I did. You know what I mean? Shout out my guy Rick. Lucci said Frank can't take that low weight offer, especially if it's on the rematch undercard or even the main event. Yeah, fact. He said, I guess that purse bid wasn't enough, and we knew that 1 mil is Bob's magic number at top rank. Shout out my guy MP. What the fuck was good, MP? You got a point there, man. You got a point there. Shout out my guy Greg. Greg said, unlike most who get one side of a story and run with it, you got the information from both sides, then you speak. Yep, that's what I try. Yep, that's what I try to do, brother. That's what I try to do, brother. Shout out my guy Ricky Williams. My guy Ricky Williams said, how can y'all say Frank Duck when Shakur didn't even take the 25%? And that's exactly what I'm saying too, Rick. Like if I didn't right, if I got the mind enough, right? Because that's just the kind of person that I am. Because I understand that this is a business too. You know what I mean? I understand that this is a business too. So if I got the mind enough, Rick, to understand that if Shakur, no matter how I feel about it, because I feel like Shakur Stevenson should have took 25%, especially given the situation that he would have been in if he took his 25%. Right? You would have been undisputed champion after your 25%. You would have been able to set your own prices in a fight with anybody not named Javante. You would have been able to set your own prices versus Loma if you beat Devin. You would have been able to set your own prices against Ryan if you beat Devin. You would have been able to set your own prices against you and T.O. would have had to go 50-50. You know what I mean? Because y'all got the same accomplishments, right? As you have accomplishments up on T.O., you'll have a real undisputed. You know what I mean? So you'll have an edge on T.O. As well. You know what I mean? So with Shakur, I felt like, hell yeah, you take that 25% because where you could go after you beat Devin. If you were to beat Devin, hell yeah, you take that 25%. If I'm Frank Martin, right, in this situation, just me personally, right, but I can understand why he feel a certain way, Frank Martin, and I can understand why he feel a certain way, Shakur. But if I'm Frank Martin, I'm not taking the $1 million flat fee in the biggest fight of my career. That means I never get more than the $1 million again. You know what I mean? Not saying even if I win it, right? If I start my rate off at the biggest fight in my career, which would be you, and I take $1 million, you know what I mean? That'd probably be the only $1 million that Frank see. You know what I mean? That was just $1 million. You know what I mean? And this fight is worth way more than $1 million, especially if you Frank Martin. This is a vacant fight, right? It's not like Devin Haney. It's not like Devin Haney and Shakur. It's not like Devin Haney and Shakur because that was for undisputed. This is for one strap, and it's a vacant. Neither of y'all are the champion right now. You know what I mean? So if I got the mind enough to say Shakur Stevenson, just like he said, I know my worth. I know what I'm worth, right? But then you turn around and offer Frank Martin $1 million. So how you go come out and say, well, yeah, Frank Martin ducked me when you just said when the same thing just happened to you. So you felt like you get lowballed, and then you come out your next fight and you lowball this guy. You know what I mean? And people want to run with it as if it's a duck. If Frank Martin ducked Shakur Stevenson in this situation, now that we got the truth out, right? Now that the truth is out, right? And the truth is that what's good, DP? Shout out my guy DP Rocker. And the truth is that what happened was this fight fell through because of financial reasons, right? Because of the offer, right? Because Frank Martin felt like that he wanted more than $1 million. Shakur Stevenson didn't want to give Frank Martin more than $1 million. So both fighters went their separate ways. So if we saying that Frank Martin ducked Shakur, then we got to say that Shakur ducked Devin Haney. And it's funny how this shit, came full circle like this. Me personally, Southern T, I don't feel like ducks happen nowhere. I don't feel like nowhere on the board it's a duck. Don't feel like Frank ducked Shakur. Don't feel like Shakur ducked Devin. You know what I mean? But I did believe that it was more of a chance for this Frank Martin versus Shakur fight to happen than Devin Haney versus Shakur fight. You know what I mean? So I am a little surprised that this one didn't fall through. He said, I do. I'm not surprised that, I'm a little surprised that this fight fell through because I thought we had a deal. And just to answer your question, MP, it is a title match. It's for the vacant WBC title. But what I'm saying is neither fighter has the belt right now. You know what I mean? Neither fighter has possession of the WBC. It's a vacant belt. So Shakur can't be trying to make, he can't be trying to get champion purses on the vacant belt. If it's a $4 million purse, y'all split it 50-50. You know what I mean? Or at least give that man, the 1.5 to cover his taxes. You know, $1 million flat fee in a title fight in which neither of y'all possess the belt is crazy. You know what I mean? If he offered Frank Martin 25%, that's a terrible offer. Some will call it overpricing yourself. You know what I mean? Some will call it overpricing yourself. And now people gonna say, well, Frank Martin only made this fight. Frank Martin made that fight. Frank Martin made about 100K, 200K, 75K. You know what I mean? Right. But a fight of this magnitude, when you're number two and he's number three, you know what I mean? That's more like $1 million flat fee. That is ridiculous. You know what I mean? That is ridiculous. You know what I mean? And now initially, right? Initially, it sounded bad, right? I was when the news first broke, but you got to think, where did we get the news from? We got all of this news from ESPN, and that's Shakur's side of the story, right? So what I did was I waited, and that, you know, PBC doesn't have, you know, necessarily a platform in that way, right? PBC actually is, you got to put if you reach out to them, you reach people close enough around the situation, they will holler back at you, right? If you know, if you got a big enough uh if what how should I phrase this? If they feel like that you could make a difference with, you know, the boxing community, when you got questions, they ask you because they answer you because they know if they don't answer you, then you probably just gonna go with what you think. You know what I mean? But PBC don't really have the platform that ESPN has, right? So you got to do a little work to really find out, you know, what's going on with them. And Frank Martin, you know, he came out, he said what he said on Twitter, but he didn't really go into detail. But looking for me, you know, I know people who work there. I know people who close to the situation, who got inside info on shit like that. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm getting this from. And eventually, this is going to come out. You know what I mean? Eventually, it is going to come out. It's coming out right now. You know what I mean? It's coming out right now. You know what I mean? But again, I don't feel like, you know, Shakur dug Devin because Shakur said that he felt like he was worth more than what he got offered. I don't feel like that Frank Martin is ducking Shakur because, you know, he's saying that he feel like he's worth more than what Shakur is offering him. But my thing is, if you Shakur Stevenson, right, this is not a great look for you to you know, paint the picture, right, or for you to feel like you got lowballed by Devin Haney, and then you come back and you lowball Frank Martin. You come back and then you lowball Frank Martin. You know what I mean? They just not a good look at all. Quick, TWT. What's good, Queen? Appreciate you sliding through. Good, Queen, appreciate you sliding through this night. You know what I mean? But it ain't it ain't it ain't. I personally don't feel like it's again, like now, I'm gonna say this again. It's two things, right? It's boxing and then it's the business. I don't feel like either of these boxers. A17 said Shakur dug dead multiple times. He said he just wanted to flip the narrative on somebody else. It's business, right? And then it's boxing. He said irony is a motherfucker. He said T. Shout my guy Josh. He said T. You right? If Frank Duck Kurt, then they gotta say Kurt Duck David, right? That's all I'm saying. If we go do this, man, we gotta at least be consistent, right, in how we do things. My tip is I get both sides, right, and then I drop my synopsis. If I break some breaking news, it's because I already did my research. Just because the news happened to break at 6 in the morning, don't mean I went up from 2 a.m. to 4:30 a.m. putting that story together. I took me a nap for an hour and a half, woke up at 6 and dropped that breaking news. You know what I mean? I already did fact checked it if I'm gonna drop it. You know what I mean? If I'm gonna drop it, I'm gonna fact check it first. You know what I mean? And when this news first broke, it looked terrible for Frank Martin. I was like, damn, Frank. You know what I mean? I was like, damn, Frank. But before I jump to conclusion, I want to make sure that I gather my info. And what I'm hearing, you know, from Frank's side, right, for people close to the situation is that, you know, that sounds believable, right? That sounds more believable, right? That sounds more believable. Oh, it was a problem with the money. It was a money issue. We never agreed to terms completely. You see ESPN dropped their news. They dropped their news to, you know, cover their fighter's ass. You know what I mean? we was never gonna drop no news about him lowballing us. We would just go say, we didn't want to fight. You know what I mean? We going in a different direction, which is exactly what Frank Martin and his team said. He came out and he had to answer this duck situation, right? Because the narrative became, because it's a narrative that Shakur Stevenson did set. Shakur Stevenson went to Twitter and put ducks over Frank Martin's, comments, right? So it's the standard that he set. What they're saying is the whole media push was to make it look like that Frank ducked Shakur, when in reality they got a low ball offer from Shakur and his side. You know what I mean? He said he can fight. Everyone says that he can fight, but he moving like a oh. Funny seemed like he learned the behavior from somebody. I know you're talking about, but Ricky said, it's like I said, they want to bully people in negotiations, but won't take a fight when they don't have the leverage. You know what I mean? Yo, I got 19 people in the building, right? I got 16 likes. Can I get everybody that's in the building to hit that thumbs up for your boy that ain't hit that thumbs up? I'm going to run back through it real quick so I can catch the people up, that ain't up to speed real quick. So Shakur Stevenson, his side is saying that Frank Martin pulled out of the fight and they ducked Shakur Stevenson because they don't want to smoke. Well, Frank Martin and his side is saying that we want all the smoke. We pulled out of that fight because they offered us $1 million flat fee, and we know our worth. This fight is worth more than $1 million for us and our side, right? So I can understand it, right? And my thing is, if you go say that Frank duck in the same, I can understand that, just like I can understand Shakur Stevenson's situation with Devin Haney, right? And y'all know I'm Team Haney. But I can understand if Shakur Stevenson feel like he's worth more than 25%, he not gonna take the fight because he feel like he worth more than 25%. I'm not gonna go work no job for goddamn $11 when I want goddamn 20, or I want fucking 19, or I want fucking 30. You know what I'm saying? I'm not, or I'm 24. I'm not going to work a job for goddamn $11 when I know it's way better jobs out here. I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? So that's basically what they say. You know what I mean? I'm not taking $1 million. Shakur, I'm not taking 25%. And you could feel like you don't. Now, I feel like in Shakur's situation, the opportunity that you had for Undisputed, you got to seize that because of the moment, how big of an opportunity it was. You know what I mean? But in this situation, I feel a little similar situations, and I understand both of them, Frank and Shakur, not wanting the fights, even though I feel like Shakur probably should have took his, right? But I understand both of them not wanting to do it because they feel like that they worth more. I can't tell them how much they worth in the situation. Just like you can't tell me, I can't tell you. Nobody can tell y'all how much y'all, worth. So I can't put a value on him. He know how his deal set up. He know how many, mouths he got to feed. He know how, what's going on, on his side. So I can't say, yeah, bro, you ducked because you did. I could say I probably would have, you know what I mean? But I can't look at him that way because he did. Shade girl, what's good, Queen? Appreciate you sliding through this joint. Glad you can make it. Tay D. He says, so what was the offer, T? Because I'm tired of Shakur Boogeyman. Shit, Teddy. Okay, let me answer you, Teddy. I don't know if you just heard me with the breakdown, but it was $1 million. It was $1 million up front to Frank Martin, and Frank Martin and his side didn't like that. Frank Martin and his side never agreed to the terms. ESPN put that news out there. If you're asking me why they put that news out there, I think it was to protect their fighter, which is what everybody does, right? They protect their fighters, right? But they put their news out there to kind of get, people to believe that, Frank Martin, Doug Shakur. What Frank Martin's side is saying that, they put their news out there because they knew that we weren't going to take that BS offer that was offered to us. So to get out ahead of it, right, you drop that news to save your own ass, right, to save face for yourself. Oh, Frank Martin, Doug Shakur. From their side, right, when the actuality is Shakur made us a low ball offer that he knew he wasn't going to take because he knew that he really didn't want that smoke. Shakur Stevens is in the situation right now where he could fight anybody that he pretty much wants for the WBC. The next fighter in line for that title is probably going to be Edwin De Los Santos. You know what I mean? Because if him and Shakur Stevenson came to an agreement, if Frank and Shakur Stevenson can't come to an agreement, Edwin De Los Santos will be next up in their ranking system, right? You know what I mean? And I'm pretty sure he gonna take that $1 million. You know what I mean? He's gonna take that million. You know what I mean? Because he's in a different situation than Frank Martin is in. You know what I mean? So he's gonna take that meal, right? But the offer was $1 million. You know what I mean? Or Teddy. And the big problem is that the big problem they got everybody questioning, right? Is ESPN dropped it that they agreed to terms of fully, and what Frank Martin and his side is saying is they never agreed to them terms, right? He said if it was a low ball, why is he reported that they agreed? My bad, even answer my already. Yeah. I'm catching you up, buddy. I'm catching you up. I'm gonna catch you up. I'm catching you up, buddy. He said, I say that it should be 50-50 because neither has a belt at 135, and this is for a vacant belt. At least around that, right? At least around that. If Frank Martin's only getting $1 million, let's just say the fight, I'm lowballing, right? Let's just say the fight worth $4 million. If Frank is getting $1 million and Shakur is getting 3, that's unfair. You know what I mean? That's unfair. If Frank is only getting $1 million and Shakur getting 2.5, you know what I mean? That's unfair. You know what I mean? Because depending on, I don't even know how much money they actually got into this fight. But my thing is $1 million. I know it's more than that. You know what I mean? I know it's more than that. You know what I mean? That's crazy. That's crazy. Like the yeah, Shakur was definitely supposed to take it. But even though it's vacant, Frank almost 30. He should have took it too. I don't think he should have took it for the $1 million, TD. That's tough. He said Shakur ain't going to take 50-50 because he done more. But Shakur getting $5 million, Frank could get 2. And that's where I'm thinking is at, some up in that range. But I'm lowballing it with the 4 and the 3, right? But I'm like, bro, if this is a $5 million fight, bro, come on, man. You know what I mean? $1 million, that's crazy. He just so Top Rank was trying not to negotiate. You know, that's what Frank Martin and their side said. They was like, you know, they didn't want to come off the $1 million flat fee. He said, my source said Shakur was getting $6 million and Frank was offered $1 million, right? And that sounded about right. That sounded, you know what I'm saying? So if you offering a $1 million, that's crazy. If y'all getting anything more than 3, if y'all getting anything more than $3 million to offer him $1 million is crazy. Like, that's crazy, bro. You know what I mean? Especially given the fact that you were just in a situation where you feel like you was lowball. You know what I mean? Especially with you just being where you were just in a situation where, you know, Devin Haney offered you 25%. You know, that's a lowball offer. You can't come back. You can't come right back and offer Frank the $1 million. The $1 million. Is there people saying WBC confirmed they agreed? So Frank had to accept the offer. Yeah, ESPN was saying that, right? And the WBC, pretty much Shakur could fight. Shakur going to fight pretty much who he wanted to fight for that WBC, right? Frank and his side said they never agreed to the $1 million. You know what I mean? Think about this, Teddy. If Frank Martin signed that fight, right, and pulled out of it, won't Shakur be able to sue him for messing with Shakur money, for tampering with his money? If you sign for a fight, right, and you pull out of it legally, you know, you taking food at my mouth. I was going to pay for my kids this with that fight. You know what I mean? If he signed for that fight, if Frank Martin signed for $1 million, and Shakur was getting $3, $4, $5 million, you don't think that he will be more on his ass? He will be coming out with more than just ducks on Twitter. He'll be like, nah, Brody, you signed already. You on the dotted line. You got to fight. It's money on the line. You know what I mean? If this fight was signed already, if Frank had really signed already, Shakur will have way more leverage in this situation. Frank will almost have to fight, right? And that's how they explained it to me. What Frank, his side saying is, bro, us agreed to terms. There was an ESPN move. Right, we agreed to a lot of terms. We did not like the $1 million flat fee, right? And again, I don't know exactly how much Shakur Stevenson is getting, right? And unless you getting $2 million, right, you offer him $1 million is crazy. If you getting $3 million, you know what I mean, you offering him. I mean, that's how is y'all fight only worth $3 million, right? And if you getting $4 million, 3-1, that's crazy. You know what I mean? But if I could understand in this situation, right, that, you know, Frank Martin think he's valued at a higher rate. Just like I understand with Shakur and Devin. Shakur feel like he's valued at a higher rate. I don't got no problem with Devin feel like he worth what he worth. I don't got no problem with Shakur feeling like he worth what he worth. I don't got no problem with Frank feeling like he worth what he worth. You know what I mean? The part, the twist is coming from they told everybody that Frank Martin agreed to them terms when he didn't. That's what's messing everybody up right now. That's what got everybody confused. Frank Martin never agreed to them terms. You know what I mean? He never agreed to those terms. He said Bob Air ain't paying no $7 million for no fight. Shout out to my guy Big Dog Willie. Where you at, Big Dog? Shout out to my guy Big Dog Willie. Appreciate you sliding through this thing, Big Dog. Glad you can make it, pimpin'. Glad you can make it. TWC is in the building. I love seeing these TWT. My guy BC. My guy BC. He said that's about Bob's cap, $6 million. Right. You know what I mean? That's about his cap, $6 million, $5 million, something like that. You know what I mean? If Shakur getting $4 million and Frank getting $1 million, that's madness. If Shakur getting $5 million for this fight, bro, give Frank $2 million, you take the $3 million. That will be as fair get. You know what I mean? If you feel like you can't, I'm not really sure what Frank has per se is, BC, but look, BC, this fight is going to be Frank's highest purse. Just like that 25% with Devin was going to be Shakur highest purse, right? So me being the balanced thinker that I am, if I could understand, right, what Shakur is in a tough spot right now, because what you're saying, BC, is exactly true, bro. This will be Frank's highest purse, $1 million. 25% with Devin Haney would have been Shakur's highest purse. You know what I mean? That is true. But when you get fights like this, you know you get a little extra. You get a little extra for a fight of a magnitude like this. You know what I mean? You get a little extra. Devin and Shakur, you get a little extra for a fight like that. You go get a little extra for a fight like Shakur and Frank. You know what I mean? But if my thing is, if Frank Martin indeed did agree to the terms and sign, right, him pulling out the fight, Shakur have much more leverage, right? If he actually did sign. Well, Frank Martin, his side is saying that they never agreed to these terms. They never signed for this fight. And then when I said the same thing, I was like, well, why would they report that? He said, if that was true, we'll be getting sued. They'll be getting sued. I'm like, damn, you're absolutely right. You know what I mean? He just shaking my head, this fucked up. They about to trash Frank. He said, because of way less than $1 million, he looks crazy. He said, Frank just ducked. My guy, Big Dog, said, Frank just ducked. Somebody dropped a super chat in here. Where that super chat at? Somebody dropped a super where they said, Ricky Williams. Ricky Williams said, can anyone tell me Shakur's numbers that he was getting? Money is judged relative. They had to be more to ask for more. I'm not even sure. I'm not sure exactly what Shakur was getting, right? But if you just talking to me, man, and you say Frank Martin, Shakur Stevenson, Frank Martin getting $1 million, that in itself just sounds crazy to me. And I'm gonna go on this stream 10 more minutes because early baseball about to start. Y'all know I gotta get my best and shit going for early baseball. But it, like, just on the surface, right? With me not knowing no information, right? When I hear Shakur Stevenson versus Frank Martin, right? My automatic thought is Frank Martin should get more than $1 million. That's my first thought. Frank should get more than $1 million. If we talking about fighters ducking their highest purses, man, they have like Frank. Yes, this probably would have been Frank Martin's highest purse. This would be Frank Martin's highest purse. But just like, you know, Devin Haney's Shakur would have been Shakur would have got his highest purse versus Devin Haney. You know what I mean? Okay, Frank Martin has purse is 100,000. His highest purse is 100,000. Let's see. His highest purchase is 100,000. You know what I mean? So yes, indeed, it will be his highest purchase, but it most definitely would have been Shakur's highest purchase too. So just because he's highest purchase doesn't mean he has to accept it, right? If all I'm saying is, man, if he feel like just like Shakur, he said Frank Martin agreed to the terms, that's why it didn't go to purse bid. He said, or did they agree to negotiate? Frank Martin, Frank Martin's side said that they never agreed to that $1 million. You know what I mean? They never agreed to that $1 million. It didn't go to purse bid because they was negotiating. You know what I mean? Frank Martin them pulled out because they wasn't getting more than $1 million. That's what I'm being told. You know what I mean? And all I'm saying is, he said boxing getting real, no more energy until fight night. And all I'm saying is, right, if we're going to say that, he said all we do is get on here and accuse motherfuckers of ducking, right? And I haven't accused nobody of ducking, right, Teddy? I'm laying out the facts, right? What's being said is that Frank Martin is ducking, right? But you got to understand the situation, man. If Frank Martin ducked Shakur ducked Devin, right? And I know we don't feel like Shakur ducked Devin, right? But if we're going to say that Frank ducked Shakur, the same principle applies to Shakur versus Devin. It's going to be Shakur highest payday, right? It's going to be Frank Martin's highest payday. You know what I mean? Like it's all the same, right? But Shakur felt like he's valued at higher. Frank Martin feel like he's valued at higher. So the fight ain't gonna happen. It's business and it's boxing. It's boxing and it's business. And guess what you got to do before you box? It's 14 people in the building. I need all 14 y'all to hit that thumbs up. Guess what you got to do before you box? It's boxing and it's business. Guess which one really comes first? Yeah, facts, Teddy. Guess which one comes first, y'all? Whether we want to believe it or not. It's boxing and it's business. And then it's antics, right? The media causes a lot of this shit. You know what I mean? If the media never came out and said they agreed, right, we would have never got excited. If the media never came out and said, oh yeah, we got a date in this set, we would have never been this excited. The media came out and said that they agreed to all terms, but Frank Martin didn't agree to all terms. You know what I mean? The purse bid didn't happen because they were negotiating, but they didn't, one side is saying, what you see, so of course, Stevenson side haven't even told you why Frank Martin ducked. You know what I mean? So of course, Stevenson side haven't told you that he ducked because of this or that. They just said, oh, he'll duck. Frank Martin told you they offered me $1 million. Now is the time where you get Shakur to say, you know what I mean? Or we just gonna keep saying that Shakur ducked. I mean, we keep on saying Frank ducked. Now it's time for Shakur to say, oh, we offered you $1 million because this. We offered you this because that. We offered you this because that. Now I really should have, and I should have known this was too good of a fight to be true. You know what I mean? I really should have known that Frank and Shakur fighting one another was a little too good to be true. Right? You know what I mean? But I indeed need, people to be more mindful of the fact that the same thing that just happened here is the same thing that just happened with Devin and Shakur. Exact same thing. This is going to be Frank Martin's highest person. A Devin Haney fight is going to be Shakur's highest person. I'm going to say it again slow. This fight is going to be Frank Martin's highest person. A Devin Haney fight is going to be Shakur's highest person. Now, I'm one of the people who don't feel like Shakur Stevenson necessarily ducked Devin Haney. I do feel like Shakur Stevenson missed an opportunity to grab the world in his hands, but I wouldn't necessarily call it a duck, right? Because I think you duck somebody that you fear. You know what I mean? I don't think he feared Devin Haney. I think he wanted more money, and I can understand it. It's just that simple for me. You know what I mean? Just like I can understand that Frank Martin simply just wanted more money. It's that simple for me. It's that simple for me. If he wanted more bread, right? He wanted more bread. You know what I mean? It's that simple. Like I don't got to put no spin on it. I don't got to put no extras in it. I don't got a cap. I don't got a cap. You know what I mean? He wanted more money. Is there Shakur took the proper route to go on purse being let WB decide? Frank had done the same thing. That's the distance. Shakur took the WBC route and he didn't get no 50-50 big dog. He ain't get 50-50. He ain't get 50-50. He ain't get 50-50 when he took that. He got just about what Devin offered him. He got just about what Devin offered him. He didn't get 50-50 for that. He asked for 50-50. He ain't get 50-50 for that. He didn't take no proper route. The WBC mandated this. You know what I mean? WBC mandated this. Shakur said, I want 50-50. That's why that fight didn't happen. You know what I mean? The man, when he didn't say 35, he got offered 35%. He got offered 35% to fight Devin Haney. The man said 50-50. That means he overpriced himself then. The WBC told you, bro, you're not worth no 50-50. In this fight, you worth about 35%. And that was being nice to you. That's why you got the 35%. That's why he got 35. He asked for 50. Devin said you get 25. The nigga said I want 50. That mean that Devin was more closer to his value than he was to his own value. I ain't no math genius, but 15 is greater than 10. Devin Haney don't have a belt because he fights at 140. That's why Devin don't have a belt. What did Devin say after he got out that ring? I'm fighting Regis Prograis. Devin don't got a belt because he fight at 140. That's why Devin don't got a belt. And Devin actually still is the champion recess. He is still the champion recess. Devin actually do got 4 belts. Same thing. Same thing, man. If Frank ducks Shakur, man, he ducked his biggest payday in his life. Shakur ducked the biggest payday in his life, bro. Is it one person feel like he's worth more? Let's do the math. Let's do the math. Devin, let's do the math. Devin said you worth 25%. Shakur said I'm worth 50%. WBC said you worth 35%. So 25 and 35, 35 and 50. That means Devin was more closer to your value than you were. You know what I mean? You thought you was about to get 25% more than what you got for than what than what Devin gave. You got 10% more. You got taxes. You got taxes on what Devin gave you. You got taxes on what Devin gave you. He said, everybody ducking, fuck it. What Big Dog say? He said Devin don't have a belt because he didn't fight his mandatory. Devin relinquished his belt because he went to 140, like he said, right after the fight, before Shakur Stevenson ever even got the microphone. Right? Before Shakur Stevenson ever even got the microphone, what did Devin Haney say? I'm going up to 140. Fight Regis Prograis. before Shakur even got the microphone to start this, Shakur want to fight Devin. Now I ain't finna be here long because I'm finna watch baseball. I'm actually finna get up out of here in a second. I gotta make my bets. If y'all want to come talk shit over there, y'all come talk shit over there. But I gotta put my baseball bets in, man. Y'all know me. What Ricky say? I'm gonna stop this done at 105. He said they all ducks besides EJ and Wild. He said we should just start calling the sport ducking at this point, right? He said for what? You so confused us with more bullshit. You retarded. He said thanks T. Don't drop shit. Y'all retarded, bro. Y'all not finna make these bets, man. The Braves and Phillies come on at 12, bro. They got one game parlay written all over it. It's second round of a TWT baseball playoffs. It's the last day of the first week of TWT football playoffs. I gotta clock into my second job, which is gambling. So I greatly appreciate everybody sliding through this junk. I just want to hit y'all with that tab, but we gonna feel the way we feel about it, right? I personally don't feel like either fighter duck. I don't feel like Shakur duck Dale. I don't feel like Frank duck Shakur. Frank feel like he was worth more than what Shakur then was offering. Shakur feel like he was worth more than what Devin then was offering. I got common sense. I can understand it. Okay, well, I can't tell you what your value is, bro. I could say, I think you have more to win, Shakur. I think you have more to win, Shakur, in your situation. I can say, I think Frank got a lot to lose in his situation. You know what I mean? Right, but that's just my opinion. And who am I? Right? Who am I? But I don't feel like either of them duck because both fighters just feel like they was worth more. But for my people who feel like that Shakur didn't duck and Frank did duck, that makes absolutely zero sense. Same situation, different fighters, literally back to back. You say, oh, Devin Haney ain't look out for his quote unquote brother. He ain't look out for Shakur. He lowballed them. And then you got Shakur Stevenson who coming off of Frank Martin $1 million, right? But I just want to come hit y'all. With that tip right there. Frank Martin said that his side never agreed to all the terms. They agreed to most of the terms. They got offered $1 million flat fee, and they wasn't feeling that, right? Shakur side saying that that Frank Martin pulled out of the fight. What I feel like is each side is going to have their fighter's best interest at heart. They gonna say whatever they need to say to protect their fighter. So I feel like ESPN dropped whatever they said to make Shakur feel away. I mean to make Shakur look a certain way in the light. I feel like Frank Martin and his side gonna say whatever they say to make Frank Martin look a certain way in the light. Me personally, for analyzing it myself, it just come down to both guys feel like they worth more than what they get offered, and it's just that simple to me. But Skin the Hardaway, Southern T. Y'all make sure y'all meet me on the betting stream. We finna roll up. We finna get how we finna post some drinks and all that good shit. Make these bets. We got about 25 minutes left. Skin the Hardaway, Southern T. This ain't the past. This ain't the future, but just the present. That's how we rocking. And I'm out. Love.